Hello, everybody, and thank you for being here to listen to my presentation about Rempart. So, who is Rempart? Rempart is a national organization recognized as being of public utility, born in 1966, whose ambition is to associate citizens around concrete and collective project on heritage. We have chosen to organize us as a network, as a union of associations, and our network now counts more than 200 association non-profits all around France, over 10,000 committed and active citizens. Obviously, the involvement for heritage goes beyond borders. That's why we have more than 50 partners in 30 countries. We are welcoming around 4,500 volunteers each year on our work camps. And these work camps are the DNA of the heart, the aim of our mission. The philosophy that binds the members of Rempart is very strong and is based on a very edifying, inspiring charter which states, for example, that Rempart must work equally for the benefit of the built and natural heritage and for the satisfaction of those individuals who are sensitive to its objectives. Each element of the heritage is at the heart of the local associations project. It is both the goal and the support. The goal, because it is to restore, of course, to rehabilitate and pass on to the future generations a heritage that we have inherited from the past. And the support, because for Rempart, heritage is an object of training, discovery, learning, inclusion, integration, and socialization of people, young or not so young people, who participate in the project. And Rempart sees heritage as a link between people to build a sustainable future together. Everyone takes their place and is welcome with wide open arms. You can see here a very great diversity of heritage. This is religious heritage and military heritage and rural heritage as well. This is very broad spectrum, which basically represent the evolution of concerns and mentality in terms of heritage protection. Others examples, as you see, trains and boats, traditional houses, a wash house, and so on, sometimes villages as well. And for many years, we have had a very good partnership with ICOMOS Israel, and although we have not had the opportunity to do a work camp recently, we hope that we will be able to do so in the years to come. And here are some pictures of our experience together in ACO, like 15 years ago or 14 years ago. So, well, now let's go to the heart of the matter. In November 1982, in Cholet, in the center of France, just 40 years ago, a history teacher and the director of a local laundry had the idea of a museum dedicated to the textile industry, which was disappearing. So the Textile and Fashion Museum was created in 1995 in this former factory, the Sauvageau River Laundry, and 13 years of gestation for this associative adventure supported by the municipality of Cholet. The Rempart volunteer work camps made a decisive contribution to the restoration of the site. A human adventure starts. It all began with when Jean-Joseph Chevalier, a young teacher, arrived in Cholet, a town that built its reputation on the production of canvases for over a century. But from 1960s onwards, the crisis hit this industry. One factory after another closed down. The machines left or were destroyed. The tall brick chimneys disappeared from the landscapes. The archives were taken away or burnt. And for him, it was urgent to save that could be saved. So Jean-Joseph Chevalier, with the help of Francis Bord, a textile engineer from Normandy, brought together other local history enthusiasts to create an association. It was to enhance the industrial heritage in perdition, to save the buildings, machines, archives, but also to collect the collective memory of the individual who had kept this textile activity. In January 1984, the association, for example, attracted 6,500 visitors to the town hall in 2 weeks for its first exhibition. This proved that the people of Cholet were interested in their industrial past. It proved that people and industrial heritage might be reconciled. The Sauvageau River Laundry, built in 1881, which ceased to bleach the cloth produced by the many Cholet workshops in the early 1940s, was sold to a construction company. At the beginning of the 80s, it was promised to be demolished, and the young association convinced the mayor that it was the ideal place for the future museum. It was decided that to ensure its continuity, the museum would be a municipal one, but would operate in conjunction with the association. It is a typical factory from the great textile era, made of shell stone and brick, with a high chimney that you've seen, but the site has suffered a lot and must be restored. Elisabeth Douarmont-Gazon, the project manager, called on volunteers from international work camps organized in conjunction with Rempart, to which the association belongs. And it would take more than 10 years to rehabilitate the premises. Interior and exterior plasterwork was sanded down, ceilings and false ceilings were dismantled, and partition dating from the time when the factory was used as the warehouse were demolished, and the floors were cleared of the concrete slab that covered them, repointed and restored with the trace of the machine bases that used to appear on them. Thus, the original structures of the building were covered, revealing the old bleaching vat made of cut granite. Traces of rails and pipes discovered provided valuable information on the operation of the factory. The whole structure uncovered is one of the very few known testimonies of the old bleaching processes, thus reinforcing the historical and scientific value of the Sauvageau River. Real great industrial archaeology operations were to be set up, which was quite a precursor for the time. But looms could not be installed in the middle of the laundry. Thanks, another building has to be added. And Marshal Humeau, the architect, was inspired by the Crystal Palace, built to glorify the Industrial Revolution at the 1851 London exhibition. On March 25, 1995, the Textile and Fashion Museum was inaugurated. The objective is not only to be a conservatory of memories through the inventory of preserved machines, the census of size and material remains where this industrial revolution was developed, the safeguarding of various documents which form a rich archive, the audio and video recordings allowing the preservation of gestures and know-how. The aim is above all to make the site a living museum, a place of animation and transmission of its knowledge and know-how. The international work camps helped to bring the site back to life before it was officially rehabilitated as a museum. The main lines of the museographic project were defined in order not only to recreate all the stages of textile productions up to its marketing, but also to evoke a social life, not to be only a technical museum. At that time, the question arose as to the future of the association in charge of the work. And this association, called the Friends of the Textile and Fashion Museum, is so in charge of cultural mediation of the museum, training and management of the team of guides for schools and adults guided tour. It also manages the museum shop and the marketing of the red Cholet handkerchief, which is the city's emblem, woven in the heart of the museum since 2003. It participates in the promotions of Cholet's heritage through the publication of its annual magazine introductory courses in spinning and vegetable dyeing. A well-planned renovation is able to build bridges between authenticity and new uses, proving that heritage is an essential asset for development. With this place full of history, the association wants to make the population aware and allow it to appropriate its own history of know-how, of course, ways of life, typical housing, weavers' houses, for example, and social relationships. To make this collection as rich as possible, local history associations are involved. Since their beginnings, the association and the museum have been working with the objective to stay in connection with the territory. The collaboration between the museum and the association that runs it can be summed up as follows. From a factory to a museum, a human adventure. From fiber to clothing, the history of a territory. And after that, I'd like to give you two more examples, very different, but still on the idea of industrial heritage. This is the old shipyard created in 1837 by the Tramassé family. They built wooden boats to transport people and goods on the Garonne River. This flourishing business employed up to 40 workers in the 1930s. In decline since the early 1960s, the Tramassé shipyards were finally closed in 1955 and left to rot. The town council of the village, Le Tourne, then decided to buy the buildings, and the association Chantier Tramassé was created in 1997 to revive these historic sites. Today, it is one of the oldest river shipyards in France, still in operation. They develop activities that are part of an approach to heritage enhancement, a desire for exchanges and openness, for discovery and rediscovery. They organize work camps, cultural festivals. They transmit know-hows, of course, through training on tangible, for example, boats, and tangible, like inland navigation or fishing or traditional marine carpentry, and natural heritage, which is the Garonne River. The Chantier Tramassé project is common, is participative and collective, and above all is very passionate, like everyone in heritage, I think. A last example, very different, it is about trains. In the late 1960s, railway enthusiasts saw the disappearance of the small narrow gauge trains, which had been abandoned by industries and in favor of trucks. They decided to join together to save this heritage and create APEVA, which soon joined Rempart. The main activity is, of course, the operation of the historic line to run for the pleasure trains for passengers. The fruit of this activity makes it possible to undertake the restoration of historic vehicles in order to present them in the museum, but also to make them circulate during special events. For it is first and foremost a living museum where they strives to help people the history and the many uses of these narrow gauge trains. So here are some evidences of that industrial heritage, like built heritage, can be a matter for everyone, in particular for restoration work for volunteers. That's why we are trying to prove since 57 years at Rempart. So thank you very much for your attention, and Toda Raba.